Hello, everybody. It is time for another episode of The Devil's Den. We recorded this one like very quickly after the first one.
Just shows how excited we are to
Yeah,
get
I
it.
was going to say, because usually even with Batcave, we go several weeks without recording another episode. Same with Kryptonian Chronicles. It's like, wait a minute, didn't we just do one of these last week?
Absolutely, but we're so excited to do more of this.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
so,
still really pumped up about the Stephanie Phillips news.
heck yeah.
That I'm just totally in right now.
Yeah.
So this time around, we, like last week on our first episode of The Devil's Den, we talked about Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear. Today we are going to be talking about the one that started it all. We're going to be talking about the first appearance of Daredevil in Daredevil #1 from April 1964. Daredevil, created by Stan Lee and Bill Everett. Stan Lee, of course, co-created some of the most iconic characters in comic books.
Yeah.
So his contribution to comic books can never be denied by anybody.
Yeah, it's one of those things is, he is definitely one of the biggest names in the industry, or, rest in peace, an absolute legend. But I think also bringing that up too is a lot of people attribute that it's only him when it's not just only him as well. So
Right.
we need to give just enough credit. In this case, the name I'm not personally familiar with, Bill Everett, in this case, who
Interesting. So Bill Everett, you're not familiar with that name. That's very interesting.
I don't think so.
Bill Everett is the guy that created Namor.
See, I didn't know that either.
Like by himself. That he doesn't have any co-creating others. Like he created Namor. So he had been, by this time, 1964, he had already been in the industry a while because Namor came out in the 30s.
Okay, yeah, I knew Namor was before. I didn't know he was credited with
Namor
that.
Namor was 1939.
Right. He's also credited for co-creating Zombie, which is a Tales of the Zombie, which is I guess a horror anthology for Marvel.
The biggest contribution that I can remember from him is Namor. Namor and co-creating Daredevil. That's his biggest claim to fame,
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So Daredevil, he comes out in 1964 with this issue. As I was reading this, and I don't think this was the first. I'm certain this was not the first time I ever read this issue. But as I'm reading it to prepare for today's recording, I'm thinking, there are a couple of things that we mentioned last week.
Yeah.
That were kind of incorrect. One of the things we mentioned is that Frank Miller's take on it was more street level than Stan Lee's. While reading this one, he was still pretty kind of street level. He was not fighting any supervillain.
Not at this point.
Not at this point, right?
Second issue that changes, but yeah.
Like I said before we stopped recording, I only read this one. I didn't go any further because I didn't want to get confused because our focus was #1. But so after we're done recording this, I will continue my quest to read the entire run. I don't know how far we'll get, but yeah. So there wasn't a supervillain. We are going to talk about the villain in this story. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to mention that we are doing this second episode of Devil's Den for our Rebel Nerd Radio patrons. As far as because this one is actually going to be early access. I'm not gonna like throw it up on the YouTube tomorrow. It'll be early access for a little while, probably about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. Depends. Depends on when we decide to record a third episode. I guess we'll put it that way. But Rebel Nerd Radio is now part of a collective of other creators. We are part of the Shenanigans Collective. So I just wanted to talk about that real brief here. Right now, besides Rebel Nerd Radio, there are, let me count them here. I actually now have to keep a list because I'm not going to remember them all. We now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but including Rebel Nerd Radio, we have 7 creators as a part of collective, and I don't think that's the end. I think we still have 2 others that are interested that have not made it official. But we have the Dingus Den. And since that's yours, Spencer, why don't you talk very briefly about the Dingus Den?
The Dingus Den is where I do a bunch of comic reviews for the most part, and comic adjacent stuff too. So the other thing I'm doing right now alongside a bunch of different comic reviews is talk about Smallville, which is my first time watching through live Saturday nights for that before the Cape, which has been a lot of fun.
Nice. Good show.
I've been enjoying it so far.
Yeah, one of my favorites. And another creator that we have on there is called the Tabletop Lounge, which is a gaming.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that me and a few friends or a couple friends are running, where built to be a community that we can play tabletop games in. I know you're part of it, where you're playing in the almost finished Operation Flash version.
Yeah,
that's where I run my big D&D campaign called the Trail of Conspiracy. And then there's going to be lots of other stuff coming. It's just a matter of figuring out timing and getting stuff involved in it. But my big focus on it right now is my big D&D campaign, and so definitely give it a listen to.
Very cool. And then in addition, we have the Sausage Farm. And he is I guess mostly gaming, but kind of just general nerd.
Yeah. I know he likes to release some or make some gaming clips and stuff here and there.
Yeah.
Run by my friend Austin, also one of the people who's involved in the Tabletop Lounge. So good guy.
Then we have the Iconis podcast, which is another comic book themed podcast. They a couple of guys, Barry and God, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the co-host because I don't really talk to him that much. I talk to Barry like all the time, but they kind of go with a perspective of they talk about characters. Quite often they talk about characters that are a little more obscure. So it's a pretty cool podcast. And then the 2 newest ones are actually it's 2 podcasts that are co-hosted by the same guy. We've got his name is Nick. He does a movie podcast called Nick Flicks. And he just started another movie podcast with a co-host called Nick and Phil at the Movies. So we just added both of those podcasts to the collective. And Nick's a pretty good guy. And if you like movies, great place to start going to listen to podcasts about movies. But I will have a link in the show description to the Shenanigans Collective, which will give you links to all of the shows that are part of the collective. So we just got together. We're going to cross promote each other and build each other up, and just kind of be a network community of creators. And it's been in the works for a while.
Yeah, that's something that we talked a lot about doing on and off. So it's
yeah,
we've finally made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me and you have talked about it for a really long time, and then I've just finally pulled the trigger. So anyway, check out all those podcasts. But back to Daredevil. So this issue was compiled as a part of this book, Daredevil Marvel Masterworks. This was a trade. You can get it in hardcover, which when I get a job, I'm thinking that I might actually get to the hardcover of this just for collector purposes, because it would be cool to have on my bookshelf. But this one collects Daredevil number 1 through 11.
Okay.
And,
very nice.
So again, like I said earlier, it came out in April 1964 and written by Stan Lee, artwork by Bill Everett. Just jump in. I wanted to ask you a few questions about this. What about did you think his origin was unique for this time period?
Unique for this time period.
Base it on the origins of other characters like Spider-Man, the Hulk, Captain America. So when I say time period, I'm thinking more like a grander time period, like Silver Age in general. Because I think this is still part of the Silver Age, isn't it? I think it is.
I don't remember exactly. Maybe I can look into that really quick. But that's a good question. I would say I lean towards no on the fact that this origin relies heavily on him losing someone, which we got in a big way with Spider-Man. And then obviously prior to this, we got it big with Batman.
Right.
But I would say this is unique for Marvel in another way. Well, this is still very lighthearted. It is also some of the most darkest, I want to say, that Marvel may have gotten up to this point, at least as far as their main universe goes, right? Fantastic Four is very lighthearted. Spider-Man's very lighthearted. And while this Daredevil is still a very lighthearted version of Daredevil is what we know of now,
it
still has story beats that felt dark for its time.
Right.
For coming out. What year did this come out in?
And I just 1964. So I just said confirm that is still part of the Golden Age. The Silver Age. The Silver Age lasted until 1970.
All right.
But I agree with you. I think it's not unique in that way. But, and I could be wrong about this. So correct me if I'm wrong, you, Spencer, or anybody watching this. Is this not the first disabled superhero?
That's a good question.
I don't remember another character before him having that angle. And I didn't bother to look it up before we.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now because I'm really.
While I was writing the notes for this, I thought, "Hey, is this the first disabled character?" But I didn't think to look it up.
There is somebody that's credited in a 1940 comic that was disabled.
So,
I think you could say this is probably the biggest known disabled hero, though.
yeah.
Interesting.
But I think, while not the first, apparently, it's still a little. It sets it apart from some of the bigger known characters.
Sure.
For the time, because Spider-Man wasn't disabled. Captain America obviously wasn't disabled. Hulk was not disabled. Well, Bruce Banner, you can argue.
We got Professor X a year before.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't even think about that. I mean, obviously the dude can't walk, but dang, I didn't even think about him.
Yeah, I'm just looking up a list of characters, and it's.
How did I forget Professor X? So no, he is not the first disabled character. But then also Professor X kind of had others doing most of the work for him.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's a little different in tone. Like you said, He's still lighthearted, and I think that is just generally indicative of the Silver Age.
100%.
While at the same time being a little dark, because I think it plays up tragedy a little more than other origin stories.
Yeah, you could say that. Definitely for a little bit. Like a bunch of these other big characters, like they don't make it where it's tragic in the sense of losing someone really that much, Like even with Spider-Man, we knew that he's stuck with his aunt and uncle, but they never lean hard. At least not at the very beginning here at this point of him not having his mom and dad that he's with, right? Fantastic Four that's just like, oh, we get sent to space, and the next thing you know, they're have superpowers.
Yeah.
And so, or a science experiment gone wrong, and there you get the Hulk. So, like, of all of them all, it's definitely very tragic. It feels very much like me that they're probably trying to rival Batman in a big way, probably with this.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Also, for the fact that his superpowers are, I'm not sure if I would use the word unique, but they're quite a bit different than other heroes of the Silver Age.
Sure. Well, that's the thing is I feel like the modern version of Daredevil, like when we read Man Without Fear, it didn't necessarily lean that hard into he's blind, so he gets this special sense. Like we do get that sense of him learning to use it, and that enhances his ability. But this leans so far in that it's not necessarily an enhancement, but a superpower, you could say. And that really stood out to me with reading this issue.
Yeah.
Like specifically, like there's this one part where he's tracking the I think it was in this issue where he's tracking like electric stuff, and he's like able to hear it through the floor, and
and there's
right into that.
There's this book really gets into, like, he gets really specific with what his powers are.
Yeah.
Like he has this like inner monologue where he talks about, oh, I can do this now. because of my sense of taste or my sense of, but like
Yeah.
I think the part you might be talking about, and I could be wrong, is when he's tracking the fixer and he can smell the cigar smoke through the crowds.
Right. There's that. It might have been. I was trying to find it. It might have been in the in another issue that I was thinking of because I
See,
don't see it.
that's why I only read the first issue, because I didn't want to get confused.
But no, there's some parts where it gets very, very much like that.
Yeah.
Where he's able to track something very specific as he goes.
Yeah, like
It's
we
interesting.
don't get a training sequence like we did in the Man of Fear. In
No.
fact, it almost seems like he didn't really train to do what he does. It just kind of like we were saying last week. One of the big differences in this origin
No,
and
it
Frank
isn't this
Miller's
that I was
origin
thinking of.
is that he
Um,
didn't lose his sight until he was in college in this one.
right. He was a lot older. The other difference in this, though, and it's the only kind of training that we got, is we do see that he is set up to be someone that, after he lost his sight, that he did actively start going to the gym, was all that we saw.
Right.
Or like two
Right.
panels.
That's
That was
really the
all.
only training per
And
se.
then the page after that, this is what I was thinking of, where it says, it wasn't necessarily electricity I was thinking of, but he says, but my most important ability is the form of a built-in radar that I seem to have developed. It enables me to walk anywhere safely without bumping into anything.
Yeah.
And we see that him walking around, and it's visually says ping everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I was thinking of, because
Okay.
I don't know why I thought it's electricity, because it uses like special electric sort
I
of
get what you're
bubbles.
saying. Yeah.
So, but yeah. That's what I was thinking of. Is it leans very hard into this is his power of being able to
Yeah.
sense stuff like that.
Stan Lee made it very clear, or tried to make it very clear what his powers were through this like inner monologue that Matt was having,
Right.
which I thought was kind of cool. But yeah, so Origin, not necessarily unique, but took different tones. Did you get a little bit of sense, like I did, of noir energy in this book?
I don't know if noir is the word I'd use, but I could see maybe why you'd get that. Because there was a little, I guess there's a little bit of it, just since you were, when you take out the backstory, even a little bit with the backstory, it's definitely very mobster-ish,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I can see why you say that. I will say, like, speaking along the same lines, though, is it's interesting, as this issue felt very, while it wasn't very lighthearted for what we know of Daredevil, it also did feel very familiar. Like, it did feel like something that we would get out of what we know of traditional Daredevil, whereas
Yeah.
the rest of the yellow suit issues, because he only had his yellow suit for the first 6 issues, all the others are all against, like, some sort of special supervillain of some sorts that actually, like, does come do some wild things. And so I found it interesting that this one, it is a very ground level one, where the other ones, for the most part, aren't necessarily that way.
Yeah, I mean, in general, he he is a very ground level character until you get into much later issues.
I'll just say, stuff that happens in the second issue, I don't know how ground level I'd say it really is in some regards, but yeah.
I mean,
Getting crazy
here
around
and
with
there,
that.
but I mean, I feel he's more grounded than the other superheroes of the time.
In some ways, maybe. Definitely compared to the other Marvel heroes, for sure.
Right. Well, that's who I'm kind of specifically basing it on. So, speaking of grounded, and let's talk about the villain. So the villain is the Fixer, who is responsible for the death of his father, and that's pretty much the whole story. Is Daredevil trying to find the Fixer and the people responsible. for his father's death, which we'll jump on a little later, or now. I guess we could just talk about how the first issue sets Daredevil's, or doesn't set Daredevil's moral framework. Like, I feel like, although he didn't technically kill the Fixer, I feel like the Daredevil that we know now is more is much less apt to want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Whereas I got the sense, and this could just be me, but I got the sense that once he found Fixer, he was going to kill him.
It did. I would actually agree with that. I definitely felt like maybe there'd be no.
I don't think he was looking for justice. I don't think he was looking for him and he's going, I'm going to turn you over to the police. No, he was going to fuck him up.
Well, although no, there was this point later though where he did his gamble with his cane, and that's a big thing to talk about too, is how he uses his cane in this.
Yeah.
He uses his cane in a different way where it's like everything built into one kind of with this cane, where he swings around on it, and it can do a bunch of different stuff with it. But yeah, no, he did this whole gamble, as I was saying, with the recorder, saying, hey, there's a recorder in this that I was recording the entire time to use to
that's right,
as proof to get him to jail him.
Okay. I did forget that part. Okay. Huh. Yeah, that blows my whole theory. I seriously, like, he felt like he was like, man on a mission, I'm going to kill this guy. That's what I got throughout the whole thing, but I totally forgot about that scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much, wanting justice, very much like Batman with Joe Chill,
Yeah.
So it's very much the same idea, and it was a complete, story, this whole one issue.
Yeah. Let's see, I wanted to show. So yeah, the Fixer is really, we don't get any introductions to any other supervillains. And we get this Fixer that he finally catches, and the dude ends up having a heart attack. Why does that sound familiar?
Heart attack.
Didn't that happen in another?
I mean, I'm sure
it sounds very familiar. Not like another Daredevil story. I'm not even talking about like another hero. I feel like,
I don't know.
It feels very familiar to Daredevil, and maybe it's just me remembering that I read this before.
Perhaps so.
Man, I keep thinking maybe it was this issue. Oh yeah. Anyway, but we've also got a little bit of a supporting cast in here. We get a little bit of Foggy, and we get the first appearance, obviously Daredevil, but we also get the first appearance of both Foggy and Karen Page. Who is a big part. Both of these people are a big part of his life throughout Daredevil media. Like Foggy, of course, appears both in the movie and the TV series from Netflix. Karen, we did not get, or did we? Did we get Karen Page in the movie? I don't think we did. Unless that random secretary was supposed to be Karen Page. They never mention her by name. But yeah, these are two characters that are a very big part of Matt Murdock's life. What did you think of their little dynamic?
I found it interesting that they set him off right off the bat. Foggy felt very familiar, but it's interesting to see how they brought in Karen Page early on, because my main reference with Karen is obviously the Daredevil show. And
Yeah,
her initial debut is obviously very different here, which is interesting. I don't know. This first issue particularly, I don't feel like they didn't really play that big of a role. They were definitely just kind of there. They
yeah.
said who they were, and that was kind of it. I feel like.
They well, okay, so they weren't in it very much, so there wasn't much to talk about. But I feel like they already started to make hints at a possible love triangle.
Oh yes, yes, they hint at it, and I will tell you already within the first 6 issues, they lean into that for sure. So that's absolutely a
Yeah,
thing.
maybe we should have read the first 6 issues and just did. Oops. Okay. Live and you learn. But yeah, I thought they set those characters up pretty good. Speaking of Foggy and Karen and Matt, how do you feel like this first issue sets up the whole lawyer angle? Like, I felt like they rushed into it.
It kind of does. Yeah, like it just kind of happens where it's like, hey, he gets this degree, and then
Yeah,
you don't really see him use it. And actually, that's a thing that like eh, they never really have delved into it that deep, even with what I've read so far. Where like it just doesn't delve into that aspect of his life that big, which is
yeah. I feel
which is
like
interesting.
they concentrate more on Daredevil than
Yeah.
Matt. Yeah, which I guess that might be a thing for Silver Age Daredevil in general. They just
Yeah.
don't talk about him.
Yeah, they're very much making it of like he's an amazing acrobat that can do all these cool things with his cane. I don't think we necessarily see him do much with the cane this issue other than throw it, but it very much in later issues becomes a special gadget where it can do a bunch of different things.
So it sounds like story wise, this issue does a lot to set the tone and introduce the character very well. But that's about it.
Yeah, I would say so. Like it very much just sets him up, and it very much is like this is our ground level Daredevil story, and then from here, now that we know who the character is, it's going to get crazier.
Yeah.
And it does.
Let's see. Where's the rest of my notes? Okay. So we can't not talk about the artwork. So why don't you go ahead and jump on, and I will. If you've got any thoughts about the artwork, I've got a few notes written down.
I think I liked what Bill Everett did here. I think he had a style that worked, and so I liked it. I think he particularly did a bunch of the action stuff well here, being able to see the actions and mid motion, which really helped. I think the opening of this, where it's one of those stories that has the opening where he fights against like the Fixer's goons, and then it's like, well, who's the Daredevil guy? Here's the backstory, right? So it did a good job of, hey, yeah, exactly. Literally into page 2 there, he appears there and he's like, yeah, you all shouldn't be here. I'm gonna kick your butt now. And that's what he does. And we see we see him kick butt, which is
Yeah.
he did a good job with the action, I think. So
Yeah, I did mention, or I think his his style of visual storytelling is pretty good. He has for the period, he's very good at kinetic motion, kinetic flow.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got an interesting style.
Yeah.
I like it. I would not say that he's my favorite Daredevil artist. I'm not really sure where that would.
He didn't, unless he returned to the series later. He didn't last long either. He was only there for the first 4 issues.
Right. Man, who took over for him?
Would something.
No, I think I know. Yeah, names on the
Something
tip.
would. Yeah, because it was interesting because one of the big differences when they took over was just a very brief note here is with his costume. It's 1 red D. We're used to the normal double D's.
Yeah.
When this new artist took over at issue 5, they had like a special like little editor's note saying, "Welcome in this brand new artist who make a couple refinements to the costume," and the biggest one was being those 2 D's on him.
Yeah. So, why do you think they went with yellow?
That's a good question, and it didn't necessarily last long either. It only lasted 6 issues, and obviously it's became a very big, like, iconic costume with how brief it's actually been around. Like, we've had a couple of miniseries, I guess, dealing with Yellow Suit. Maybe he's gone back to it briefly, but
yeah,
it's definitely interesting because it's like, I think it's just something to do with superheroes being really colorful at the time, I would think, but I'm not sure.
Because generally speaking, I think your casual fan of Daredevil is going to be more familiar with the red suit,
right? Well, here's another interesting thing is it's hard to think of characters that actively wear yellow, you know,
yeah.
like okay, everyone knows Wolverine easily from his iconic costume, but then it's like beyond Wolverine, what other heroes primarily wear yellow?
Sinestro.
Heroes, though.
Heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
Sinestro,
it's so like small is the point, and so I think part of it is too is it may have just been a thing to attempt to help stand out. Now, why they changed color from yellow to red, I don't know.
What's that now?
I said now why they would have gone from yellow to red, I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if it was a color printing thing.
It's very possible. I'm gonna look up why was Daredevil yellow and see what happens.
Because there was a story behind why Hulk was originally gray.
Yes.
And it had something to do with the printing. So I wonder if there was.
So here's an interesting fact since we're talking about this, and this definitely jumps ahead a little bit, is they changed it to red because people didn't like the yellow.
Oh.
They felt as if too bright to fit what the character was standing.
I thought it was too bright. Okay.
Yeah.
So the thing about the yellow, though, was that he made it from his dad's boxing robes.
Yeah, he was saying he made it all together, stitched together. One of the things that stands out to me is it's a very basic costume. Very much like how Spider-Man's is, how it's handcrafted, right? Just basic fabrics and stuff, and this is the same way. So did get a little bit of that, and then I also pointed out his cane, specifically pointing out, oh look, it has a flexible handle where there's a hinge on it, so it can be the perfect all-purpose weapon.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely got a. I really like the weapon angle.
Yeah.
And I just thought of another when we were talking about his powers. There's another one that they pointed out in again his whole inner monologue thing is how he is able to tell if somebody's lying or not.
Right.
I thought
That's interesting too. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of interesting powers that this guy has.
I forgot about that one in this first issue.
He also they don't really play up, at least not in this issue. They don't really play up his like Catholic.
You know, I was thinking that none of the I don't know when that first became a thing with Daredevil because it hasn't been present at all for this yellow suit era that I read. And so yeah, that is a good point. Like there's no really and you know, this also comes partly to a time too of, you know, that it was just lighthearted and I don't think there it was a point where I think the idea of politics in comics wasn't a thing, you know.
That's fair. But yeah, his
I'm reading that the first time that is implied that he was Catholic wasn't until 119.
Oh, so they go quite a ways before they start talking about that.
Something else is that he does attend church in 190. It looks like, or just
that was way after Stan Lee.
So yeah, it's a thing that yeah. Primarily, that's mainly a Frank Miller thing. It looks like that who really leaned into it, which just shows how big he reinvented the character, as we talked about with our first episode.
Yeah. You know, while not related to issue number 1, did you know that Stan Lee's favorite comic book is a Daredevil comic book? And it's not even one that he wrote.
Really?
Yeah, I was reading about. I was looking for something about issue number 1, and I came across this several references about Stan Lee citing that one of his favorite comic books is Daredevil number 47.
Oh, what's the thing about that?
But it's about it has something to do with Daredevil going to Vietnam.
Interesting.
And visiting troops, and he meets a soldier that's blind.
Interesting. That's one Stan Lee wrote.
Oh, wait a minute. It is. Okay, I said he didn't write it, but yeah, he actually did. Maybe he was talking about one of the favorite ones that he wrote himself.
Gene Colan was the artist on it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, neat.
Well, what else do we have to say about Daredevil number 1?
I don't know if there's much to necessarily else for, at least for me.
It was a short comic.
I mean, yeah, it's a very familiar story in a sense of a lot of the story beats, while it's lighthearted, is very much the same of kind of what we read. I definitely prefer Man Without Fear, since it's obviously how we more think of Daredevil. But it's really cool to see how he started, and I did enjoy reading this and the issues after it. And so they were good, and it's cool to see the different eras of the character, you know. While it's not my favorite iteration of Daredevil. I still really appreciate it. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I once again relating to Batman, and we have all these different eras of Batman. You know,
Yeah.
Batman back around this time too was also very lighthearted, and not that those were bad, but like those are still really good as well. But it's not how we think of Batman as now, and this is the same thing I could say with Daredevil. This Daredevil is not how I know of Daredevil now, but it still works in the how the comics were in the 60s, and by the time when they were able to get darker in the 80s and even more darker in the 90s, that you know, he was just one of those characters that turned into be, hey, we can make him darker, and it really worked. But all to say, it was just cool to see how it all began.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's definitely not my favorite run or era of Daredevil, but like you said, I can definitely appreciate it, especially after go back and rereading it, and then how it really sets the well, I don't want to say sets the tone, but really like sets the character in motion.
Yeah.
Like we get a lot, as much as it's not everything about him is not the Daredevil we know now. You can see where a lot of it came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool too of this one, despite the like I said, the lighthearted tone, it does just feel very much like a Daredevil story, like just in the 60s,
Yeah.
of how we think of the character. Um, the ones after this, though, it goes completely off the balls crazy, and that's where it's like really a relic of its time. So, but yeah, I don't think I've got anything else to say about this.
Cool. So I don't think we've come to a consensus on what the next episode will be, or maybe we did. Maybe are we gonna talk about the first red suit issue, or are we gonna talk? We'll talk about it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we might talk about the first red suit issue. We've got a lot. I mean, there's a lot to explore about this character.
Yeah,
So,
got a bunch to go through.
we've got lots of ideas for future episodes. So hope you enjoyed this second episode of The Devil's Den, and hope you come back for more. Those of you that are watching on the Patreon, thanks for being patrons, and hope you enjoy this early access content. And let us know what you think. Later.
Bye.